Hello and welcome back to our data structures and algorithm series. In this video, we want to look at how to insert a node in a linked list. Now, there are three possibilities to inserting a node in a linked list. You can either insert it at the beginning, that is at the head of the linked list, or you can insert it in between two nodes of the linked list, or you can insert it at the end. So in this particular video, we want to focus on inserting in the beginning of the linked list. In this visualization, we are just looking at the algorithm. How does it work? So in inserting at the head, the first thing you have to do is to create the node that you want to insert. Now, this particular node will have a value, and it will point to null initially because it's not pointing to any other node. Now, the next thing that I have not included in this visualization is that we will check, is the head pointing to any location? In this case, it's pointing to node B, right? But in case the head was actually none, for example, here we had none. If the head is none, then this algorithm should simply be as simple as the head now pointing to the node we've created, meaning this node is actually the first node in our linked list. But in this case, that is not the case. We already have other nodes, and therefore, after creating the node, then we are going to point this node A that we've created to the head. So please note that here this arrow is actually moving to node B, but this link is still there to signify that we are actually pointing to the head. And what is the head pointing to anyway? It's pointing to node B, the address of node B. So we are simply pointing a.next, node a.next to this particular value. And once we do that, then we update a.next to the address of the next node. Then after that, we delete the value that is on the head and now point the head to the new node, which is node A. So that is really the visualization of it, and that is the algorithm, that you have to create a node, then you point it to the head, then you point the head to that particular node. So let's jump right in on Visual Studio and implement this code. Now, in our previous video, we created nodes like this, and later on came to link them like this. So we don't normally do this. This was just to make you understand how a node really behaves, that a node is just an object of a class. So let me just comment this. So normally, to create nodes, we have to create a linked list class. So here we are creating a linked list class to implement the linked list operation. Linked list operations. Okay. So how to create a class? Again, we do the class name. Then we just want to call it singly linked list, like that. Then a full colon. So the first thing is to implement the initialization function. Initialization function, and this initialization function is actually creating the head of the linked list. So again, def, then double underscore, then init, then another double underscore, then round brackets. Then here, of course, we have to start with self. I explained in the previous video why self is important. And there's no other parameter that we need for this particular function. So inside it, we are going to create a variable called head. So self.head is equals to none. So we just want to initialize the head to nothing, because so far the head is not pointing to anything. Then we want to create a function to insert a node at the beginning of the list, or the linked list. Okay, so to do that, we do def, then we give it a name. I'll just call it insert at beginning, like that. So I wanted to receive the data. So how to insert at the beginning? Again, process number one is create the node. So we're just going to call this node new node. Then we initialize it to, you remember we have the node class. So we just initialize it to the node class and we pass it the data. So the data is actually what we've passed to this function, right? So we just want to pass it this. So we pass it the data that we've received. So that's how we create a new node. This is just a variable. Then this is the node class that we've implemented up here. So you can see it up here, okay? Okay. So after that, we want to check if head is empty. I don't want to use none, is empty really. So you can just do if self.head is none. So that means if the head is pointing to none, then we now want self.head to point to this new node, the new node that we've just created. Else, what do we do? Else, we first want to point the new node to the head. Then after pointing the new node to the head, we want to point the head to the new node, like that. So how to point the new node to the head? It's just using the next. So new node dot next is equals to self dot head. So this will now store the address. Remember, head is just a pointer. So the address that had been stored on the head variable will now be stored on the next part, the reference part of the node that we've just created. Then after that, we can now point the head to the new node. So to do that again is just self.head is equals to new node, like that. So with this function, insert at beginning should be able to work. Should be able to work for us. Okay, so I have just implemented another method in this class to print the list. Don't worry about it. We are going to talk about it when we talk about the traversal operation. So just ignore it, but just know that we are going to call this method in order to print the list. But for now, let's get out of the class, then let's create the linked list from the singly linked list class. Okay, so to do that, we give it a name. For example, my singly list. Let me just call it list, like that. Then you use the assignment operator and you do singly linked list, like that. So that's how you create it. After you've created it, we can now call the insert insert at beginning function to create nodes and insert at the beginning, and insert at the beginning of the list. Okay, so how we do this, we use the object name. So our object is called my singly list dot, then the name of the function you want to call. So we want to call insert at the beginning. Remember, insert at the beginning takes data. It has what do we call it? And you can actually see it here. It requires that you pass it one parameter, which is the data. So we're just going to pass it, for example, D. Then I'm going to duplicate these lines by pressing Control Shift and the down arrow. Then I'm going to change this to C, then this to B, then this to A. So I'm just calling and passing it in the reverse order because we are inserting at the beginning, so that when we print, we are able to get A, B, C, D. So print the content of the linked list. So to do that again, you use the object name, my singly list, then the name of the function, print list. Okay, so that is all that you have to do. So let's see whether this is going to work. I'm just going to save my work, then run. Okay, and when we run, we can see that we the very first node has the data A, the second one has B, then C, then D, and the last one is pointing to a none. So we are not pointing to any other thing. So don't worry about the arrows. These are just formatting. We just put the arrows for formatting in the print statement. So here on the print statement, whoosh, how did I get away from? Okay, so on the print statement here, the print statement in Python can actually take several parameters, and one of the parameters is the end parameter. So for the end parameter, you can be able to specify after printing what do you want to come at the end, after it has printed the data that you want to be printed. What do you want to come? So by default, it's normally end like that, then new line like that, new line. So that is why when you just print without using end, the default value is that everything you print is going to start on a new line. So we've just changed that so that instead of starting from a new line, we can just have that. And you can actually try this out. You can just remove this end here, and if I save and run, you can see that now we are having everything on a new line. So I just put that there to depict how a linked list might look like. So I'll just undo and still have it there. So I hope you've been able to understand how to insert, especially the syntax and the algorithm of how to insert a node at the beginning of a linked list. In the next video, before we look at how to insert at the end and even at the beginning, in the next video, I want to explain the traversal, how to traverse a linked list. So thank you so much for staying to the end. See you in the next video. For now, bye-bye.